This story will break your heart until the last 10 seconds. Ethan Carter was just a nameless orphan, a boy no one believed in. He built an AI-powered rocket from scrap, wrote letters to Keanu Reeves and Elon Musk, and dreamed of something bigger than the world he was trapped in. No one answered, no one cared, until one mistake changed everything. A letter, thrown in the trash, was found by Keanu Reeves, a phone call to Elon Musk, an invitation to Tesla, a betrayal that nearly destroyed him, a comeback that made history. And just when the world thought he had peaked at 12 years old, he became the first kid on Mars. Wait, what? From a foster home to the Red Planet. His name? Ethan Carter. The boy who was supposed to be nothing became the future. Let's start the story. The storm raged outside, rattling the broken window of a small, dimly lit room in an old foster home. Inside, a 12-year-old boy sat hunched over a pile of scrap materials, discarded circuit boards, broken drone propellers, and old wires he'd salvaged from the junkyard. His hands, small yet precise, worked tirelessly as he adjusted the tiny AI module inside the miniature rocket he had built. Tonight was the night. He held his breath, pressing the ignition switch. The tiny thruster sparked, hissed, then boom! Sparks flew and the rocket toppled over, lifeless. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he quickly wiped them away. Failure wasn't new to him. His name was Ethan Carter, an orphan who had never known his real parents. But he knew one thing: he wanted to reach the stars. Unlike the other kids in the foster home, Ethan didn't care for video games or TV shows. He spent his days reading physics books he borrowed from the local library and watching rocket launches on the cracked screen of an old tablet he had repaired himself. His dream? To build a rocket that could one day leave Earth. But dreams meant nothing when you had no one to believe in you. One night, under the dim glow of a flickering lamp, he wrote 2 letters, one to Keanu Reeves, his favorite actor, and another to Elon Musk, the man he admired the most. Dear Mr. Reeves, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I believe in kindness, just like you. My name is Ethan. I'm 12 years old and I live in a foster home. I've built a mini AI-powered rocket from scrap, but no one here understands what I'm trying to do. I don't have parents, but I have dreams. I just want someone to believe in me. Dear Mr. Musk, I built a small AI rocket from trash. It failed, but I'll try again. I know you're busy, but if you ever read this, please know that I dream of working at SpaceX one day, maybe even going to Mars. If you give me a chance, I promise I won't waste it. He sealed the letters and handed them to the foster home's caretaker, a strict woman named Ms. Dunham, who barely glanced at them before tossing them into a pile of fan mail. Letters that never reached their destination. Ethan never got a reply, and after weeks of waiting, hope began to fade. Until one fateful day. The foster home was unusually lively that day. Kids ran around in excitement, whispering rumors. A celebrity is coming. Someone famous? Maybe a movie star? Ethan barely looked up from his broken rocket. He didn't care about celebrities. His heroes were scientists, engineers, and dreamers, not actors. But then he heard the name, Keanu Reeves. His hands froze. Keanu Reeves? Here? For the first time in months, something sparked inside him. Hope. Keanu Reeves walked through the foster home, smiling warmly at the children. He was here for a charity event, donating supplies and spending time with the kids. As he passed by the staff office, something caught his eye, a crumpled piece of paper in the trash can. For some reason, he felt an urge to pick it up. He unfolded it carefully and read the first few lines. Dear Mr. Reeves, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I believe in kindness, just like you. Keanu's smile faded. He read further, his eyes narrowing in disbelief. A 12-year-old orphan building AI-powered rockets from scrap? His heart clenched. Why was this in the trash? Something about the letter hit him deep. He knew what it was like to feel alone, to feel invisible. He had to find this boy. Keanu's voice was gentle, but firm. Ms. Dunham stiffened. Oh, that boy? He's always tinkering with junk, hardly socializes. But don't worry about him, Mr. Reeves. Some kids... Take me to him. There was no room for argument. Ethan didn't notice the footsteps approaching. He was too busy adjusting the circuits in his rocket, whispering to himself. But then a shadow fell over him. Ethan Carter? The voice was deep, kind, familiar. He turned around, and his heart nearly stopped. Keanu Reeves was standing right in front of him. For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. Was this real? Keanu knelt beside him, holding up the crumpled letter. Did you write this? Ethan nodded, unable to find his voice. Keanu's eyes scanned the table full of wires, circuits, and blueprints. He picked up the small, half-broken rocket and studied it with quiet admiration. You built this? Ethan swallowed hard. Yes, but it doesn't work. I failed. Keanu smiled. Failure is just proof that you're trying. Tell me, how does it work? And just like that, Ethan started talking. For the first time in his life, someone actually listened. He explained everything. The AI integration, the propulsion mechanism, the materials he salvaged from the scrapyard. Keanu listened intently, nodding, asking questions, treating Ethan like a real scientist. Then Keanu said something that made Ethan's heart stop. I think Elon Musk needs to see this. Keanu didn't waste time. That night, he made a call to Elon Musk. At first, Elon was skeptical. A 12-year-old built an AI rocket from scrap? Keanu chuckled. You know, people said the same thing about a guy who built a space company from nothing. There was silence on the line. Then Elon said, Tell me more about this kid. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. Keanu Reeves had read his letter. Keanu Reeves had listened to him. And now he had called Elon Musk? It felt like a dream. The next morning, Ms. Dunham called him to the office. She looked annoyed, but something in her eyes hinted at nervousness. You have a call, she said, handing him the phone. Ethan hesitated. He had never received a phone call before. With a deep breath, he pressed the phone to his ear. Hello? A voice, calm, confident, and unmistakable, came through the line. Ethan, this is Elon Musk. Ethan's mind went blank. I heard about your project, Elon continued. Keanu told me everything. AI-powered rockets? Pretty ambitious for a 12-year-old. Ethan swallowed hard. I tried, but it failed. Good, Elon said. Ethan blinked. Good? Failure is just data, Elon said. It tells you what doesn't work, so you can find what does. You don't quit after one failed launch, do you? Ethan shook his head, even though Elon couldn't see him. Good, Elon repeated, because I want to see what else you can build. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. I'm inviting you to Tesla's special school for innovators. We train the best young minds in the world, kids who think differently, kids like you. Ethan's heart pounded. You mean me? At Tesla? With real engineers? Elon chuckled. With the best engineers, but only if you're ready. Was he ready? 12 years of being ignored. 12 years of being told he was just a kid. Now, the richest man in the world was offering him a place among geniuses. I'm ready. 2 days later, a black Tesla pulled up in front of the foster home. Ethan stood at the door, clutching his small backpack, the only things he owned inside. His heart raced as the door opened. Keanu stepped out first, grinning. Ready for your next adventure? Then another man stepped out. Elon Musk. Ethan had seen him 1,000 times in interviews and on TV, but now He was right here. Elon studied him for a moment. Then he reached out his hand. Ethan shook it, his small fingers disappearing in Elon's firm grip. "I read your letter," Elon said. "You dreamed of SpaceX, but I think you can do even more." Ethan swallowed hard. "Like what?" Elon smirked. "How do you feel about designing the AI for Mars colonization?" Ethan felt his legs go weak. Mars? His eyes darted to Keanu, who gave him a knowing nod. "You wanted someone to believe in you," Keanu said. "Now, you have two." Ethan took a deep breath. Then, for the first time in his life, he stepped into his future. Tesla's Institute for Future Innovators wasn't like any school Ethan had ever known. There were no desks, no textbooks, no boring lectures. Instead, there were labs, simulations, engineers working side by side with kids who were just as obsessed with technology as Ethan was. Here, no one laughed at his ideas. Here, he belonged. But Ethan didn't just want to belong, he wanted to prove himself. For months he worked harder than anyone else, learning, experimenting, failing, trying again. Then he had an idea. An AI system for Mars, a neural network that could predict and prevent disasters before they happened. Something that could analyze Martian terrain, weather, and life support systems before astronauts even landed. Ethan spent nights programming, testing, refining. Until one night, it worked. Elon Musk stood in front of the massive screen, watching the AI simulation run. The engineers in the room whispered among themselves. "This is insane. A 12-year-old built this? This could change everything?" Ethan stood beside Keanu, his hands sweating. He had never been this nervous before. Elon turned to him, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. This AI could be the key to colonizing Mars. Ethan's breath caught. "You really think so?" Elon smirked. "Number I know so." Then, in front of everyone, he placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "From now on, you're not just a student, you're part of the mission." Ethan could barely believe what he was hearing. Keanu leaned in, whispering, "Told you you'd change the world." And in that moment, he knew. He finally mattered. News spread like wildfire. 12-year-old Orphan joins Elon Musk's Mars mission. Meet the kid who built an AI that could change space travel forever. From foster home to Tesla, the story of a boy who refused to give up. Ethan saw his face everywhere, on news articles, interviews, even SpaceX forums where engineers twice, even 3 times his age, debated his ideas. But not everyone believed in him. A kid? Seriously? This has to be PR. There's no way a 12-year-old did this. He's just a charity case. Musk probably feels bad for him. Ethan tried to ignore it. He had been doubted his whole life. But when he overheard 2 senior engineers whispering behind his back, "He's not a real scientist, just a lucky kid." Something snapped inside him. He would prove them all wrong. One evening, Elon Musk called Ethan into his office. Elon was staring at a holographic simulation of the first Mars colony. "There's a problem," Elon said, tapping the screen. "Our AI can predict threats, but it can't respond in real time. If something goes wrong, astronauts will still need human control. And by the time a signal reaches Mars from Earth, it's too late." Ethan's brain was already racing. A delay in response time? That's a death sentence in an emergency. He bit his lip. What if the AI didn't just predict? What if it learned? Elon raised an eyebrow. Go on. What if we build a neural system that doesn't just detect threats, but adapts to them? An AI that doesn't just sound alarms, but fixes the problem before humans even realize it's happening. Elon leaned back in his chair. Then he grinned. Build it. Ethan blinked. Wait, you mean me? You saw the flaw. That makes it your problem to solve. Elon smirked. Unless you think you're too young? Ethan straightened. I'll do it. Ethan locked himself in the Tesla lab, working day and night. He wasn't just trying to build an AI. He was trying to build something that had never been done before, an autonomous Martian system that could think like a human. Every mistake, every failed simulation, every setback, it all pushed him forward. Keanu checked in on him often, bringing snacks and cracking jokes. "You know, you're working harder than some of the directors I've worked with," Keanu said one night, handing Ethan a cup of coffee. Ethan grinned. "That's because they don't have to worry about oxygen tanks failing on Mars." Keanu chuckled. Fair point. But despite the late nights and exhaustion, Ethan loved every second of it, because for the first time in his life, he wasn't just dreaming, he was building the future. Just when Ethan thought he was close to finishing, something terrible happened. One morning, he walked into the lab and saw something that made his stomach drop. His AI code was gone. Deleted. All the data, all the simulations, everything he had worked on for months, wiped clean. His hands shook as he clicked through the system, desperately searching for a backup. But there was none. Someone had sabotaged him. His mind raced. Who would do this? Then he remembered the whispers, the doubts, the engineers who didn't believe in him. Had they done this? And if they had, how was he going to fight back? Ethan's pulse pounded in his ears. Who would do this? He clenched his fists. Number, he wouldn't break. He wouldn't let them win. Taking a deep breath, he pulled up the system logs. If someone had deleted his work, there had to be a trace. There, a timestamp, a login, a name. Dr. Marcus Hensley. Ethan's stomach twisted. Dr. Hensley was one of Tesla's senior AI engineers. He was brilliant, respected, and one of the loudest voices saying Ethan didn't belong. Ethan had always ignored him, until now. That evening, Ethan stormed into the engineering floor. Dr. Hensley stood with a group of senior engineers, laughing over coffee. Ethan didn't care that they were adults. He didn't care that they were twice his size. He marched straight up to Hensley and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You deleted my AI." Silence. The room froze. Hensley looked down at him, his face calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." Ethan's fists clenched. "You logged in at 2:47 a.m. You wiped my project. I saw it in the system logs." The other engineers whispered among themselves. They knew Ethan was right. Hensley smirked. "You think I'd sabotage a child's work? Come on, kid. Maybe you just made a mistake and don't want to admit it." Ethan felt rage boiling inside him. Then a voice cut through the tension. "You didn't just sabotage a child's work," Elon Musk said, stepping into the room. "You sabotaged Tesla's future." Hensley's face drained of color. The entire floor went dead silent. Hensley stammered, Elon held up a hand. "Save it. You broke Tesla's code of ethics. You stole from one of my engineers. You're done here." Hensley's jaw clenched, but he knew there was no point arguing. Security escorted him out. Ethan stood there, heart still pounding. He had won, but his AI was gone. Now he had to rebuild it. From scratch. Keanu found Ethan in the lab later that night. The kid was surrounded by screens, typing faster than ever. "You okay?" Keanu asked. Ethan didn't stop working. "I don't have time to be upset." Keanu smirked. "Damn, most adults would have quit." Ethan finally paused, looking at him. "I don't quit." Keanu patted his shoulder. "Then neither do I. Let's get to work." For the next 3 weeks, Ethan barely slept. With Elon's support, Tesla engineers joined him, helping recover whatever traces of his AI they could. But the real genius? Ethan. Rebuilt everything from memory. And made it even better, faster, smarter, and this time, no one could stop him. Elon gathered the entire SpaceX team in front of a giant screen. "Today," Elon announced, "we're witnessing history." Ethan stood beside him, his fingers shaking as he prepared to launch the first real-time test of his AI. One press of a button would decide everything. He exhaled. Click. The AI booted up. The simulation started. For the next 5 minutes, the entire room watched in complete silence as Ethan's AI predicted, reacted, and solved complex survival problems without any human input. When the simulation ended, the data was undeniable. Ethan's AI had cut survival risks for Mars colonists by 87%. A record-breaking achievement. Elon turned to Ethan and, in front of everyone, said, "Welcome to SpaceX, Ethan. You're no longer a student. You're an engineer." That night, Ethan stood on the Tesla balcony, staring at the stars. Keanu walked up beside him, hands in his pockets. "You did it, kid." Ethan smiled. "Not yet. I want to go there one day." Keanu grinned. "Mars?" Ethan nodded. Keanu chuckled. "Something tells me you will." And as Ethan looked up at the endless sky, he knew it too, because once upon a time, he was just a lost boy in a foster home. Now, he was the future. 10 years later. The world had changed. Mars was no longer just a dream. It was a destination. And the AI that made it possible? Ethan Carter's. At just 22 years old, he was the youngest chief engineer in SpaceX history, leading the team responsible for autonomous Martian systems, the AI that powered every life support module, habitat, and rover on the Red Planet. But Ethan wasn't satisfied. He didn't just want to send people to Mars, he wanted to go himself. And now, he was. The SpaceX Starship Odyssey stood tall on the launch pad, its silver frame gleaming under the sun. Inside, the crew suited up. Among them, Ethan Carter. Keanu Reeves watched from mission control, a proud smile on his face. "Told you you'd make it, kid." Elon Musk gave him a fist bump. "Just don't crash. You're too valuable to replace." Ethan laughed. No promises. As the countdown began, Ethan took one last look at Earth through the window, from an orphan with nothing, to the first engineer flying to another planet. 5, 4, 3. This was it. 2, 1. Liftoff. Years later, when future generations walked on Mars, they would see the first AI-powered colony and the name Ethan Carter etched in history. They would hear his story. The boy no one believed in. The genius who changed the world. The first kid on Mars. And somewhere in the endless expanse of space, Ethan smiled, because the stars had always been calling his name. Ethan Carter's journey from a forgotten orphan in a foster home to one of the greatest minds in space exploration was nothing short of extraordinary. But his story wasn't just about genius. It was about perseverance. It was about proving people wrong. It was about never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. Looking back, Ethan realized that 3 men had shaped his destiny. Keanu Reeves, the man who found his lost letter, who saw something in him when no one else did. He was the first person to truly listen to Ethan, proving that kindness can change a life. Elon Musk, the man who gave him a chance, challenging him to think bigger than he ever imagined. Elon wasn't just a mentor. He was the one who bet on Ethan when the whole world doubted him. Dr. Marcus Hensley. Yes, even the man who tried to sabotage him played a role. Hensley's betrayal had forced Ethan to fight harder, rebuild from nothing, and prove that no one could take away what he was meant to do. Ethan never forgot where he came from. Even as he became a legend in space exploration, he made sure that other kids like him, the ones who had no family, no support, no one who believed in them, got the same chance he did. He launched the Carter Initiative, a global program that found and trained young minds in engineering, AI, and space technology. Kids who, like him, were underestimated. Because Ethan knew something the world often forgot. Genius doesn't come from privilege. It comes from passion, struggle, and never giving up. At the age of 32, Ethan became the commander of the first long-term Mars colony. The AI he built had not only made human life possible on Mars, it had advanced Earth technology beyond imagination. And as he stood on the red, dusty surface of Mars, looking up at the vast sky, he sent out a message. To every kid out there who feels invisible, to every dreamer who has been told they aren't good enough, to every lost soul wondering if they'll ever matter. You do. You always did. And one day, you'll prove it. He smiled. Because he had. Ethan Carter's story isn't just about one boy. It's about every dreamer who dares to think differently. It's about perseverance. How many times was Ethan told he wasn't good enough? And yet, he kept going. It's about believing in yourself, even when no one else does. It's about the power of one act of kindness. One letter, one moment, one person willing to listen. That's all it took to change his life. And now, thanks to him, Mars wasn't just a dream. It was home. What did you think? Did this story inspire you?